In 2009, James Cameron invited audiences to the world of Pandora with his smash hit Avatar. Now 13 years later, he has returned to that world with Avatar 2: Way of the Water. And like its predecessor, the draw for this film is its stunning visuals, bringing to life the unreal. To enhance the sense of realism and make the highest quality viewing experience, James Cameron utilized a variety of specialized camera and projection techniques, and one in particular was helmed by another visionary director 10 years ago. I'm Eric the Cameraman, and today we're going to be discussing Avatar 2: Way of the Water. For his sequel, James Cameron knew that he would need to deliver the same level of visual mastery he had done in 2009, and chose to use this film to not only explore more of the world of Pandora, but also different filmmaking techniques. When filming the underwater scenes, in addition to now famously having the cast free dive in their motion capture suits, Cameron also chose a specific method of filming known as HFR. Now before we get into why his use of HFR works so well when for many previous films it didn't, let's first discuss exactly what HFR is. HFR stands for high frame rate, which is reference to the frame rate of both the camera and the projector. Frame rate is important to know because, along with its adjusted shutter angle, it determines how much motion blur is in the image. The lower the frame rate, the more motion blur, and the choppier the image will look. The higher the frame rate, the less motion blur and the smoother the film will look. Films are traditionally shot in the frame rate of 24 FPS, or 24 frames per second, and broadcast television are typically in 30 FPS, which partially accounts for the slight difference in the look of the two. Films that utilize HFR filming both film and project in 48 FPS, doubling the amount of frames in each second, resulting in an image with much smoother motion. Now, if this is all beginning to sound familiar, you may remember the first application of HFR for a major film release back in 2012 with Peter Jackson's The Hobbit. However, unlike Avatar, which received glowing praise for its visuals, The Hobbit's visuals, and namely its use of HFR, received heavy backlash. Interestingly, Peter Jackson and Andrew Lesnie decided on using this technique for essentially the same reason that James Cameron used it for Avatar. The smoother motion essentially helps with the look of the 3D, reducing the fatigue our eyes can get from the experience.
24 frames a second has got artifacts. It has strobing, but I think when you see 48 frames and you see the realism and you see the kind of the smoothness of the motion and the lack of motion blur, the overall experience is fantastic, especially in 3D. You don't get any eye strain. It's incredibly comfortable.
However, the difference comes in its exact application. Where Peter Jackson filmed the Hobbit films in their entirety in 48 FPS, James Cameron opts to use it only for specific moments, particularly ones that have large cinematic motions, and reverts back to 24 FPS for quieter moments like conversations.
48 frames doesn't benefit a 2D movie very much, if at all. It's really about making a better experience in 3D. So the trick to it was to figure out where to use it and where not to use it. And the rule was, whenever they're underwater, it's 48 frames. Some of the flying scenes, some of the broad vistas benefit from 48 frames. If it's just people sitting around talking or walking and talking, it's not necessary. In fact, it's actually sometimes even counterproductive because it looks a little too glassy smooth, right? Sometimes the edge detection that our brains are trying to do to decode the parallax, the rapid lateral displacement causes it to strobe, and it basically screws with our brains. People used to complain about 3D. Oh, I don't like 3D, it gives me a headache. Well, why? Well, you drill down on it, this is why. It's that strobing.
Because of the hyper-smooth look of HFR, watching a more than 3-hour-long 3D film in this format may have an effect on the viewer. However, it seems that Avatar: Way of the Water has found a really good balance when using this technique, reserving it only for moments that really need it, which seems to have resulted in an enhanced moving watching experience. Well, thank you for watching, and if you're interested in supporting this channel, consider giving a super thanks. Or simply by hitting the subscribe button and giving your favorite videos a like, it all helps out. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think of Avatar 2: Way of the Water?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.